Hello, folks. Welcome back. DJ DH here. David John, if you want to speak to you about what's happened in Britain. So sorry if you're watching from abroad, but it will affect your own countries as well. So let's make no bones about it. This is deeply troubling. And what I'm going to talk about is in the span of just 5 days, the British Parliament took two deeply troubling steps that threaten serious consequences for the legal protection of our human life. Make no bones about it, I'm serious. On Tuesday the 17th of June, members of Parliament voted 379 to 137 against, so 379 for, 137 against, to decriminalise abortion, removing all criminal penalties for women who end their pregnancies at any stage. This decision eliminates essential legal protections for both the mother and the babies, or the fetus, of course, because they're not born, including illegal, dangerous at-home abortions will be decriminalised. They'll be okay, legal. Dangerous at-home abortions that take the lives of fully viable babies up to 9 months birth. Yes. Now you know if a baby's born at 9 months, 8 months, 7 months. I remember my niece was born, I think, at 6 months. She's now a businesswoman with 2 children of her own, a happy marriage, a large home, everything. But she could. My sister never contemplated abortion, but she lived. She was born just smaller than a bag of £2 bag of sugar. You know, it's how small that is. And she lived and has grown up to be a beautiful woman. Now, just 3 days later, so on the 17th of June, we had this decriminalise of abortion. Just 3 days later, on Friday the 20th of June, MPs also voted to remove and to move forward with a bill that would legalise assisted suicide for terminally ill patients. Now you might think, well, they're dying anyway, but that's not the point. They're alive, they're living. Empowering doctors to prescribe lethal drugs to those deemed to have less than 6 months to live. Deemed less than 6 months to live. My wife, she died in 1996 of a brain tumour down the stem of the brain. So you've got your 2 halves of the brain, and down the centre is the stem that joins them. And she had a brain tumour as big as a golf ball. So they couldn't operate, and she died. But I was told she's got 6 months to live. I took a 12-month sabbatical from the university I was working at in Birmingham, and after 12 months the vice chancellor rang me to say, look, I want you at work on Monday. And I said, sorry, my wife's still alive. And he said, you told me 6 months. I said, yes, but thankfully she's now alive still at 12 months, but she needs me even more now because she's becoming incapable of walking. I'm feeding her by spoon. I'm washing her and dressing her. She lived another 6 months after that. So 6 months forecast was 18 months of a life she wanted to live and I wanted her to live, and we enjoyed our lives together, even though it took a lot of care from me. So I'm not interested in being told, oh, if they've got less than 6 months to live, it's okay to kill them. Doctors used to have an oath of saving and preserving life, not to prescribe lethal drugs to end life. If you're going through this sort of stage of losing a beloved partner or a child, you know, well, okay, so together these two decisions, to decriminalise abortion and to end life, they're a deeply unsettling message, and the message is that life is only worth protecting when it is considered supposedly healthy, or wanted, or useful. Who makes those decisions? Oh, you're not wanted, so I'll kill you, I'll abort you, or I'll end your life because you're not wanted. Oh, you're elderly, you're not very useful. Oh, you're not useful. I'll end your life. You should want to end your life because you're no good to us and we're having to care for you. That's not a Christian attitude. I don't want to care for you. You're not healthy, so I'll have you killed by the doctors. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. I hope it doesn't make sense to you either. But to these MPs, the members of Parliament, they're voting these in. You know, the abortion up to birth, the MPs debated it for 2 hours. 2 hours of debation. The vote to decriminalise abortion took place with only 2 hours of debate. Despite the sweeping implications of that proposal. While current UK law already allows abortion up to 24 weeks, which I think is wrong, but still, I've accepted. It allows abortion up to 24 weeks in a range of broadly defined circumstances. This amendment removes critical legal protections for viable babies in the womb, and for women in difficult situations. Many women report that they were coerced into aborting their babies because of financial considerations, because the father now doesn't want her, but he will want her again if she gets rid of the baby. And I know of this as a fact of a couple that was living in the Henley area of Stratford-upon-Avon, where the girl's fella was all for going out with the girl as long as she got rid of the baby she was carrying, his baby. And she got rid of it because he would come back. The mind boggles. Supporters presented the move as an act of compassion towards women. But in reality, only 1% of British women support abortion until birth. Only 1%. So, who are they supporting? Who are they expressing compassion to? Themselves. Selfish reasons. What the law presented and now permits is not rare, it's extreme. It removes protections that help prevent dangerous, self-managed, late-term abortions and leaves women to face serious risks alone, often in desperation and in desperate situations. This is not compassion. This is not a loving attitude. It's abandonment of women who are forced into abortions because of lack of care, lack of love, lack of finances, and lack of the use of contraceptives, quite frankly, and the lack of the ability to say no. Not now. I don't want to get pregnant. Now the assisted suicide. We'll move on from the assisted murder of babies to the assisted suicide. It's a dangerous precedent. The bill to legalise assisted suicide follows the same deeply flawed logic. If passed, it will enshrine into law the false logic that ending a life can be an acceptable form of care. I care for you, so I'm going to kill you. That is logic? Really? As I say, I cared for my wife for 18 months. Not an enjoyable task, not a duty, but it was a duty of care and love, an expression of love. And I'll tell you, on the day she died, my wife, now this usually makes me very emotional, So, yeah, I'm tearing up. On the day she died, I looked at my wife and I said, I love you. And she hadn't been able to speak. I used to have to stroke her throat for the food to go down. And I said, I love you. And she spoke. Hadn't spoken for weeks. And she said, I know. Then she died. A big and she'd gone. That will stay with me. That will stay with me for the rest of my life. That she said she knew I loved her. My demonstration of my love was the deep caring and the deep understanding of what she was going through. That is caring. That is compassion. That is love. Not getting the doctor to inject them with a lethal injection. That is murder. You can call it suicide, you can call it, I don't know, whatever you wish to call it, but it's murder. It's taking a life of a person who may have had 6 months or even more to live. Maybe not a useful life, but you see, all life is useful, and my wife lay there, unable to move on her own, but she taught me a lesson. She taught me a lesson in love. She taught me a lesson in patience. She taught me a lesson in compassion. She taught me a lot. So her life, even at the end, was useful. It was useful to me. It helped me grow. Give me a couple of seconds. Okay. The bill to legalise assisted suicide follows the same deeply flawed logic if passed. It's got to go through the House of Lords, this one has. It will be enshrined in the law, the false logic that ending a life can be an acceptable form of care. While its advocates insist it will be accompanied by safeguards, evidence from other countries tells a different story. Take Canada, for example. And I've got Canadian visitors here in this group. Less than 10 years after assisted suicide became legal, it now accounts for 4% of all deaths nationwide. A figure that continues to climb. Vulnerable people, especially those who are elderly or disabled, report feeling pressured towards accepting their death, when what they truly need is support and dignity and a community. Pressured to accept from their relatives, from the doctors, to accept being murdered. There's no other word for it. Once a healthcare system begins to treat death as a solution, it becomes cheaper, easier, and ultimately a default response. They could save a lot of money in the national health in Britain if they killed them off with just one injection. It's a culture of abandonment. It's not autonomy. Both the abortion amendment and the assisted suicide bill were framed as measures to expand personal freedom. Personal freedom of who? Of the baby that's murdered in the womb? No. What about the personal freedom of the person that's been injected with a lethal injection? Personal freedom? They're being murdered. They're not being given freedom. They're not being released from a jail. They're being released from life. Murdered. As I say, it's when the healthcare system begins to treat death as a solution, it becomes cheaper, easier, and ultimately the default response by, in Britain, the National Health Service. Both the abortion amendment and the assisted suicide bill, they're framed as measures to expand their personal freedom, but in truth, they represent a profound abandonment, wrapped in a language of choice. They chose to die. Did the baby choose to die? Did most of these people that their lives are shortened choose to die? Most didn't. Most wouldn't. When the law permits abortion at 35 weeks or offers lethal drugs in place of palliative care, it tells society that life is no longer sacred. Instead, the right to life is treated as negotiable, granted only to those society deems worthy. What about a better vision for Britain? There's another Britain, one that values every human life, from the youngest child in the womb to the most fragile person nearing life's end. It is a Britain shaped by truth, that every person bears God's image and possesses inherent dignity. Both measures now go before the House of Lords. While the abortion amendment cannot be fully blocked, it can still be challenged and delayed. The assisted suicide bill, meanwhile, faces opposition from many MPs who have pledged to resist its advance. Good for them. The Lords must give these bills the scrutiny they lacked in the Commons, and ask the hard questions that others MPs ignored. This is a moment that calls for more moral clarity for people of faith to respond, not only in Parliament, but in practice, by supporting mothers in crisis, by walking with the dying, standing there steadfastly beside them, by upholding the dignity of the disabled, and by telling a different story, that every life is a gift, and that no one is beyond the reach of love, caring, understanding, compassion. Britain is facing a crossroads, and now more than ever, we must have the courage to say no to death, and yes to life, yes to life. Say yes to life, in every stage and in every circumstance. Your comments are appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you will. It does give me support. It gives me the momentum to go forward and research these posts that I give you. And stand by me, please. Like the button if you like it. Make your comments known. I enjoy reading your comments. Even if they disagree, I may respond. I try to respond to everyone. Be there for me. Press the subscribe button. And be safe, be good, and for the moment, goodbye. For the moment, from DJ. Bye for now.